21 to order. Cindy, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cope,
Councilmember Coe.
Here.
Evans,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
Ready,
Here.
Burkhart.
Here.
I want to welcome everyone that is in the audience with us this evening. If you're here for an item that is on the agenda, we would ask for you to wait for that item to come up to address the council at that time. If you're here for an item that is not on the agenda, there will be an opportunity under public communications to address the council. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. And Prakash, is he in here? He's standing out in the hallway. Prakash, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I have my mom.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the agenda approval. Mike, do we have any changes to the agenda?
No changes this evening, Mayor.
Council, any changes? Not, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Sam, vote please.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to public communications, we have one public communication this evening, and that is a proclamation proclaiming Diwali Week, November 12th through the 18th, 2023 in Johnston, Iowa. And this is something that we've done for how many years now, Suresh? 3 years now, and we have a pretty significant Indian population in Johnston now, and we appreciate each and every one of you, and we're just really happy to be able to celebrate this event with you. So, Suresh, will you please read the proclamation for us? Save thee now, therefore, for me.
Okay, thank you guys for coming by, I appreciate it. And since Diwali is a very significant festival back in India and we're celebrating it here, it's really significant for all of us. And I'd like to thank all the Johnston City Council and the staff here for making this happen. I appreciate it. As the city goes in diversity, we are recognizing that city is getting more diverse. So thank you. So Diwali week in Johnston, November 12 to 18, 2023. Whereas Diwali or Deepawali is celebrated in autumn of each year by Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, Buddhists, and others throughout the city of Johnston and around the world. And whereas Diwali is celebrated by lighting the diya or oil lamp, which symbolizes dispelling darkness and bringing light into life with traditional offerings, rituals, and festivals. And whereas Diwali, the festival of lights that includes many traditions such as gathering with friends and family for community prayer, exchanging gifts, setting up fireworks, and decorating houses with colorful rangolis. And whereas Diwali is also the Hindu New Year, and it is celebrated on the last day of the last month in the lunar calendar. And whereas for Hindus, Diwali is celebration of good triumphing over evil, and that light will prevail over darkness. And whereas for Sikhs, Diwali is the day on which the sixth founding Guru Hargobind, was released from confinement by the Mughal Emperor Jahangir. And whereas for Jains, Diwali symbolizes Lord Mahavira attainment of nirvana. And whereas for Buddhists, Diwali represents the day Emperor Ashoka chose the peaceful path of Buddhism over destruction and carnage. And whereas diversity represents one of our greatest strengths, and Johnston joins with all those around the world celebrating Diwali.
Now, therefore, we, the mayor and city council members of Johnston, do hereby recognize November 12th through 18th, 2023, as Diwali in our city of Johnston, and I call this observance to the attention of all of our residents. And we would ask them to all join in with us in this celebration. So with that, we want to present the proclamation to
That's what we shared.
right here. And I'll ask the city council members to come down. I sure. Can you reach out for me?
That's important.
Oh, absolutely. I remember that.
Remember that? We need experience with that. Yeah, that's imagine.
Yeah.
So much.
The guy in the yellow shirt, he's a city council member too. Who is presenting the video?
Pleasure to welcome you all for the Festival of Lights, also known as Diwali.
I take this opportunity to introduce the tradition of Diwali, how and why it is celebrated all around the world. In Sanskrit, Diwali means series of lights. Diwali is celebrated on the first snow moon day when the autumn begins. Traditionally, Diwali is celebrated as victory of good over evil and knowledge over ignorance.
I want to wish a happy Diwali to all those who are celebrating the Festival of Lights here in the United States and around the world. For Hindus, Jains, Sikhs, and Buddhists, lighting the lamp, the diya, is a chance to remember, even in the midst of darkness, that light will ultimately prevail. Knowledge will defeat ignorance, and compassion will triumph over despair.
We embrace all cultures and different faiths by offering sweets, snacks, and fireworks along with the lively music and dance. On this special occasion of Diwali, we believe in sharing and caring by extending good wishes and sharing empathy in serving for people in need.
Thank you all for being a part of this celebration. Without your presence here today, the sweets would not have tasted much sweeter and the dance moves are not going to be much peppier. Thank you.
छाया आसमां
Very nice. Thank you for sharing that video with us. I was a little concerned there at the end. Are we expected to do some of those little dance moves? Maybe next year. We'll work on that.
Well, on the 18th, if you come to the temple, you certainly can dance.
Okay, well, might take you up on that. Well, again, thank you for being here with us this evening. Thank you for sharing your holiday with us, and thank you for the treats. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, we are still under public communications. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to public hearings. We have two public hearings this evening. The first is to conduct a public hearing on the issuance of not to exceed $6.2 million general obligation urban renewal bonds for the urban renewal purposes, and consider resolution 23-291 instituting proceedings to take additional action for the issuance of not to exceed 6.2 million general obligation urban renewal bonds, UR. And we'll open this public hearing at 7:22. Sarah?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So yes, this is to authorize the issuance of the general obligation urban renewal bond for the renovation of Crown Point. No bond will be issued at this time. However, this is going to be included in our 2024A bond issuance. We're requesting authorization on the issuance now rather than waiting until our normal general obligation issuance hearing due to the changes in House File 718. This project does fall in a slum and blighted urban renewal area, so we were able to follow the reverse referendum. That's why we're requesting authorization now. This will not be paid for with TIF funding, though, and will be a general obligation out of debt service.
Council have any questions for Sarah? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on this item? Seeing none. We will close the public hearing at 7:23. Do we have a motion to approve resolution number 23-291?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second discussion. Sambo, please.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes. Motion passed. Item 4B, conduct a public hearing on issuance of not to exceed $1.4 million stormwater management utility revenue capital loan notes of the city of Johnston, state of Iowa, and consider resolution number 23-299 instituting proceedings to take additional action for the authorization of a loan and disbursement agreement and the issuance of not to exceed $1.4 million stormwater management utility revenue capital loan notes. And we'll open this public hearing at 7:24. David.
Good evening. This loan will cover 3 stormwater projects that were recently bid and awarded contracts back in September. The Beaver Creek Bank stabilization adjacent to Ignite in Centurion Park, Green Meadows West, Honeywood Channel, and Forest Drive. When we brought those projects forward, we noted they would be funded through an SRF loan. This authorizes the proceedings to move forward with that loan. I would note you heard Matt Stokel earlier tonight talk about interest rates going up for SRF. This loan falls under the previously 2% rate. So we were able to get it in time in order to secure the lower interest rate. So be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for David? If not, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing at 7:25. We have a motion to approve resolution number 23-299.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Sambo, please.
Cope,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Sambo, please.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the non-consent agenda. Item 7A, consider approval of first reading of ordinance 1107, An ordinance amending the Johnston Revised Ordinances of 2007 by amending Section 69.08 to modify parking on Northwest 54th Court, Northwest 114th Street, and Highway 141. Clayton.
Good evening. Need the maps, but I can pull them up if needed. We have 3 no parking zones proposed this evening. I'm going to go through each of them really quickly, one by one. Northwest 54th Court, this would be the intersection with Northwest 57th Avenue and Northwest 54th Court. This request comes by way of citizen request to establish a no parking zone to allow for greater turning movement for larger vehicles, particularly school buses, as they're trying to go to and from the elementary school in the neighborhood. So we have had FOTH look at that, and they're recommending that we do a no parking zone, 60 feet depth from the intersection on both sides of this road there to allow for the proper turning movement. I did send notice to the adjoining properties on that corner, and as of me standing here, I've heard no public comments to date. The next one, Northwest 114th Street, this is up within our Northwest growth area. It's 114th Street dead ends into a cul-de-sac just north of the interchange with 415 and Highway 141. And that cul-de-sac is split between City of Johnston and unincorporated Polk County. So we would only be addressing those portions of the cul-de-sac within the city limits, which is the majority of it. But that's what's within our bounds. Polk County is processing the request through their system as well. So that would get a unified result there. That request comes by way of a neighboring property owner that they've been having some issues of vehicles parking down there in the evenings, causing some disruptions. So this just gives the police department a tool to utilize to help address some of those ongoing concerns of those neighborhood residents. And finally, Highway 141, I believe it was late last year, we had established no parking zones on all our arterial roadways as hazardous parking locations. And as we were just looking through, as I was looking through this, I noticed that we didn't actually call out Highway 141 as a no parking zone in the same fashion we've done all of our other arterial roadways. So that's intended really just to capture that oversight. With that, happy to answer any questions or go into detail if needed.
Council, have any questions for Clayton?
Clayton, I have one question on the cul-de-sac on 114th Street. So you've indicated with the red line, the portion that is covered by this ordinance, because that is the portion that is in the city of Johnston. Are you only going to put up one sign, though, that says no parking in the cul-de-sac?
I would actually look to Matt there on how he would have his staff sign that.
Yes, that's how we would sign it.
So unless they have an aerial and a survey, they're not going to know where Johnston is and Polk County is. So I'm good with that. Thank you. Yeah, right.
Let me just park there. Are we waiting for a motion or?
Did you have a question, Matt?
I did ask my question. I'm done asking questions.
Matt responded that it'd be one sign.
I'm sorry?
Matt responded that it would be one no parking sign.
Any other questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve first reading of ordinance number 1107?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Sam, vote please.
Pope,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart.
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7B, consider approval of the following items related to PC case 23-22. Resolution 23-294, a resolution approving a lot tie agreement for Lot 1, Crown Point Plat 1, and Lot 6, Green Meadows. Resolution 23-295, a resolution approving the site plan for Crown Point Community Center Building Addition located at 6300 Pioneer Parkway. Clayton.
Good evening. You have seen this project on several occasions, so I'm going to try and stay on a high level for you this evening. This is the project to do the building addition to Crown Point Community Center, located adjoining Terra Park on Pioneer Parkway. This area is shown on our Thrive 2040 comprehensive plan as remaining as parks and open space, so the proposal is very well in line with our comprehensive plan. Zoning for the site is within a PUD, planned unit development, and it is meeting all the requirements for setbacks, bulk regulations, building size, et cetera. There is no tree removal proposed with this. There is one tree that is in proximity to the proposed improvements, and there will be proper protections put in place to ensure that that tree gets retained during construction. No buffers are going to be required between adjoining land uses, and existing landscaping on the site satisfies all open space landscaping requirements. There would be no modifications to parking or site access with this project, and the site remains in compliance with required parking standards, as well as we were fortunate that we were already ahead of our zoning code and had the bike parking already installed as well, so no modifications have to occur there. This site does exceed our threshold of 10,000 square foot new impervious surface in combination with the pickleball courts. We have reviewed the stormwater drainage with the engineer and have shown that Terra Lake has sufficient capacity to provide this water quality and quantity requirements for this project. Architecture for the building is to generally continue the brick work throughout the entirety of the building. The proposal does include staining the existing brick to match the color of the new brick. The new zoning code does prohibit painting of brick. However, as we've looked at this as staff, we had a manufacturer details of the stain product submitted to us, and it has shown that it changes the integral color of the brick itself rather than just putting a coat over the surface as painting would. And it does come with a 25-year product warranty. So for those reasons, because it does change that integral color, staff is recommending that staining does not constitute painting because of that integral color change. But the architecture would be in compliance with all building architectural standards for the site. Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed this and has recommended approval. With that, happy to answer any questions or go into further detail if needed. And John's also available if you have questions of him.
Council have any questions for Clayton? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on this item? Seeing none. Clayton, I'm just excited that this project is finally moving forward. I think we're all excited that this project is finally moving forward. Something that our
Agreed.
community has been looking forward to. With that, do we have a motion to approve resolution number 23-294?
I move.
Second.
A motion and a second discussion? Then vote, please.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Motion passed. Do we have a motion to approve resolution number 23-295?
I move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second discussion? Sam, vote, please.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Ready.
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7C, consider approval of the first reading of ordinance 1108, an ordinance amending the Johnston Revised Ordinances of 2007, Chapter 65, to modify the locations of stop intersections, yield intersections, and official traffic controls. Clayton.
For this item, this is what we typically do annually to bring forward the new stop and yield locations of new developments within the community. And for this year, we have some new stop locations in the Ridgedale Heights neighborhood, just north of the Johnston High School, within the final phase of the Crosshaven development up along Northwest 100th Street in Little Beaver Creek. And then we have the Pitch Parkway loop that has a stop location on that southern end. As I was reviewing this and it was the Pitch Parkway that really kind of triggered the review of the official traffic controls, because Merle Hay Road and the northern entrance of Pitch Parkway is a traffic signal. So we needed to add in Pitch Parkway as a named street there. But as I was looking at that list, I noted that there were several other locations within the community that were had errors or were missing from our list of official traffic controls. So I did include those on this list so that we can have those codified, and then the police department can enforce traffic regulations if needed at those locations. Staff is recommending approval. Happy to answer questions or go into further detail if needed.
Council have any questions? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve first reading of ordinance 1108?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion, and a second discussion. Sam, vote please.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7D, consider approval of resolution number 23-300, indicating intent to participate and authorizing the inclusion of the city of Johnston in a final draft agreement establishing the Central Iowa Water Works.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is kind of continuation of the discussion we had during the works session with Matt from PFM. I think the big items that I would point out, well, first of all, the resolution before you this evening is a request that we received from the group that's been working on forming CIWW. They have requested that we approve this resolution by November 15th. Unfortunately, when we received it, it was prior to, or it was after our last city council meeting. So this is the only meeting within the time frame that we received the request that the council can consider this. The resolution is a non-binding resolution that simply states that the city is intending to join CIWW, but certainly as we go through the process and consideration, if later the council would make a decision not to join CIWW, we would not be obligated to do so. The city is working with Bill Miller from Dorsey and Whitney to review the agreement and also to provide us direction on proceedings on how we have to go through the process to actually join CIWW. Ours is probably a lot more simpler than a lot of communities where they have purchase capacity or other physical assets that they'd be transferring to CIWW. I know Matt did review with the council kind of the financial considerations on joining CIWW. I think some of the considerations that we still need to consider ongoing is, first of all, the lack of consideration on the amount that the city has been paying for water up to this point, since we were not a purchase capacity community. And in essence, we were actually paying for the debt as part of the overall cost of our water utility payments we were paying on an ongoing basis. I think second is the overpayments that we've been making to Des Moines Water Works and not receiving any recognition of that. I think other issues that we're working through and maybe not so pressing at this, but it's areas that I would like to highlight. You know, this change to going to CIWW, we are going to have a maximum capacity. Since under the old agreement with Des Moines Water Works, really we had unlimited water. Now, certainly there was a amount of water that they could produce and deliver to us, but there was no financial penalties for exceeding any maximum limits. Under this, there will be pretty severe financial penalties. And in part, aquifer storage reserve is one item, or ASRs, that I think the city needs to consider, and we've been kind of pushing with them. I think it's probably something in this agreement that we will not have any ASR rights, but I think as we go forward and additional capacities created, I think it's something the city will want to consider if we do it ourselves or if we do it in partnership with other communities. But it is an area that we need to consider. Additionally, the emergency connection to Camp Dodge, while that's been it's been a good connection for Camp Dodge, in reality, they really have never, they self-produce their own water. But we've had instances recently where they've had to access that emergency connection to receive water. How they draw and the amount of water that they draw from the system in Johnston. The bigger question is, will that affect our maximum capacity, and will we be charged for their water usage? So I think that's one discussion item that I think we may get some relief. We've been working with Des Moines Water Works and the other founding agencies on this, but it's one area that we're working on. So with that, I guess I would pause. I know you've heard the discussion with Matt earlier. Answer any questions. There is a resolution for your consideration tonight on initiating and allowing continued consideration for Johnston in CIWW, but certainly there are issues that we're working with Des Moines Water Works, and we will continue to work with Des Moines Water Works on. Be happy to answer any questions the council has this evening.
Council have any questions for Mike?
I don't have any questions, but I guess based on kind of what Mike has suggested, I would suggest that we table consideration of resolution 23-300, given, that we did receive this kind of late. I do, table it till the next meeting. Maybe we can consider it the next meeting. I know several of us had an opportunity to meet and tour the Saylorville water plant Friday, and that was very interesting and really appreciated the commitment. And I think the, candid feedback and conversation that we had with the leadership of Waterworks. But one thing I kind of, I think one of the things from my perspective is that water is has been everything we do related to water has sort of been frustrating, whether it be Xenia, whether it be Urbandale, and then how they purchase those pits out from underneath us, whether this overcharging issue. And so, and unfortunately, even throughout this whole process, it seems like it's been kind of frustrating. So I'm not really in a rush to approve this tonight. So therefore, I would make that motion to table it for tonight.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? I think to add to it, I'm not sure that Councilman Cope directed this, but we do have those outstanding issues that we have posed to the CIW. What is the acronym? CIWW?
Yes. Yep.
Have to get used to that. We posed those questions to them, and we're waiting for responses.
Yep.
And so it would be premature to act on this tonight until we heard back from them on those items. So, any other discussion, Council? If not, we have a motion and a second. Sam, vote please.
Hope,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, and that is to consider approval of claims in the amount of $817,066.62.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Sam, vote please.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Motion passed. The next item on the agenda is something that's a little unusual for us, but we have set as a board to hear these in the past, and that is a dangerous dog declaration appeal. Johnston PD case number 23-00001247. So to begin the proceeding. Now is the time scheduled for the hearing on the appeal from the city administrator's decision upholding the Johnston Police Department's declaration of a dangerous dog. Written decision was issued by the city administrator on October 20th, 2023. In his decision, the city administrator found that Annabelle, the subject dog, is a dangerous dog because on August 30th, 2023, she, without provocation, bit a person causing serious injury on private property. A written notice of appeal dated November 1st, 2023 was timely received by the city clerk. The following documents are included in the city council packet and are considered part of the record of this hearing. The city administrator's decision dated October 20th, 2023. The appellate's notice of appeal dated November 1st, 2023. The Johnston Police Department's case records related to case number 23-00001247. An ARL behavior assessment dated January 18th, 2023. several written statements submitted by the appellant during the appeal to the city administrator, and a full and complete copy of City Code Chapter 55, Animal Protection and Control. A copy of these documents have been provided to the appellant. The hearing this evening will be limited to discussion of the grounds for the appeal stated in the appellant's written notice of appeal. The grounds for appeal include the following. The appellant disagrees with the city administrator's finding that Annabelle was unprovoked when she bit Mrs. Graham. The appellant believes that additional information should have been considered by the city administrator in making his decision on the appeal. After the hearing, the council may affirm, modify, or reverse the order of the city administrator. In terms of procedure, we will allow the individuals appealing to step up to the podium and state the basis for their appeal and submit any information they want the council to consider in support of their appeal. The city administrator will then be given an opportunity to respond to the information submitted by the appellant. The appellant will then be given a final opportunity to respond to the city administrator and provide any final information to the council. Those who will be speaking this evening are reminded that this is not an opportunity to question the city council or the staff, but it is an opportunity to present whatever information you would like the council to consider in deciding whether to affirm, modify, or reverse the city administrator's decision. The time is now 7:47. We will open the hearing on this appeal. The appellant may now present whatever information you would like the council to consider regarding the appeal. Before beginning, I would ask any individual who will be speaking to please state your full name and address. Would the appellant like to come forward, please? And before you provide any oral comments, let me ask you, are there any additional written materials that you would like to submit this evening?
No, I have a digital copy.
Okay. Are there any other witnesses or individuals that will be speaking? And his name is?
Devin Gibson.
So it'll just be the two of you speaking this evening? Okay. So why don't you go ahead then and state your name and your address, and then you can begin to make your statement.
My name is Abigail Wiskis.
And you'll need to speak into the mic so that we can make sure that all the council members can hear you.
My name is Abigail Wiskis, and I live at 10425 Dorset Drive, Unit 1 in Johnston, Iowa.
My name is Devin Gibson, and I also live in 10425 Dorset Drive, Unit 1 in Johnston, Iowa.
Proceed to make your statement.
Annabelle is a female pit bull terrier who is 1 year and 9 months old and has been under our care since January 22nd, 2023. On August 30th, Annabelle was involved in an incident in our apartment complex. I was not home during the time of the incident. My boyfriend, Devin Gibson, was walking toward the unit with Annabelle, and our neighbor's home health nurse was walking in front of them. Our neighbor's dog was aggressively barking and attacking the back sliding glass door as they were walking up. The nurse knocked on our neighbor's door and the barks followed to the front door. Without knowing that Annabelle and Devin were on the other side of the door, our neighbor opened up the door and let her dog pass the threshold, not leashed or contained, back into the hallway. The nurse stood between the two dogs. This is when Annabelle bit the nurse in an attempt at the other dog. The nurse received 10 stitches due to the bite. During the investigation, it was concluded by the Johnston Police Department that Annabelle was unprovoked in the situation. The other dog involved had been taunting her from the glass since it saw Annabelle and Devin on the sidewalk. and due to the injury sustained, they labeled her as a dangerous dog. The only images of the injury the police had to base off of were bloody and not cleaned prior to the pictures being taken for evidence. There were pieces of her pants stuck to the wound. After pictures of the injury should have been cleaned prior to the evidence pictures being taken. Due to the information within the reports, we are requesting appeal of the police department's decision on Annabelle to be considered a dangerous dog. There were items that were promised to be attached to the report, but there was nothing in regard to the matter included. This included emails between the officer, between the community officer and the in-home health nurse. As noted on page 3 from the appeal meeting, there were concerns voiced out regarding Annabelle aggressively hitting the glass on the patio door in attempt to get out, potential aggressiveness towards other dogs, and fear of safety of visiting children at the complex. But when the incident was discussed with the apartment manager and if she ever had any issues with the dog in Unit 1, she stated she was surprised because she thought it would be the dog in Unit 7. She stated that she has had complaints about the dog in Unit 7, but not in Unit 1. Also discussed on page 3 of the police report was that the barks from the dog in Unit 7 did not start until after the nurse knocked on the door, but it was noted by both Devin and our neighbor that her dog started to bark when the nurse and Devin were walking up towards the house. The city administrator miswrote her age as being 2.5 years old. We are apologetic that this bite have happened, and we have taken preventative measures so something like this does not happen again. But we are requesting this as our formal letter to the Johnston City Council for an appeal on a dangerous dog declaration.
Thank you. Devin, did you have additional information?
That's all we have for right now.
Okay, if that is your statement, we will then ask the city administrator.
Is
if
it,
he
are we
has-
allowed to ask questions to them or not, or how does this process? The document you had, Mayor, nobody else has, so we're a little unclear.
Yeah. Councilman Cope is asking if we.
I don't really know what the process is here.
Yeah, if you want to ask questions of the appellant, now would be the appropriate time. This
Okay,
is
great,
their
thank you.
time, and then it'll turn over to the city.
Okay, great, thanks. So it's Abigail, right?
Correct.
So in your letter, you said it was concluded by the Johnston Police Department that Annabelle was unprovoked in the situation. What is the basis for your conclusion of that? Did the officer provide that in writing, or what is your basis for that statement?
That she was they concluded that she was unprovoked. I am trying to say that she was indeed provoked.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah, by our neighbor's dog.
okay. So the conclusion. Okay, I'm sorry.
No,
okay.
you're okay.
And then can you also talk about in the last paragraph here, you said you've taken preventative measures to prevent this from happening again in the future. What are some of those preventative measures you've taken?
We have contacted the training facility that the ARL uses. I believe it's Knox training, canine training, and she is also has been muzzle trained. And we try and take her out at night. She's away from other people, and so we have taken our measures.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, Council, for the appellant?
Mayor, I do have a couple. From the standpoint of, I'm trying to get a picture of what actually happened during the incident. Did the there was a comment made, I think, in a letter, or maybe you just stated that statement now as well, from the standpoint of it was a harness type arrangement that Annabelle was wearing at the time, correct?
Correct.
And the leash was attached to the kind of harness of the animal?
Yes.
And is that a leash? And pardon this, I don't have pets. So I've seen lots of folks walk their animals, and there's all sorts of different things as far as what constitutes a leash. Was this a leash that actually was like retractable or able to go, or was this a fixed type length of leash?
This is a fixed length leash. It's no longer than probably 3 feet, I'd say, and it's about 1/4 of an inch thick of fabric. So it's a heavy duty leash, as well as her collar is 3.5 inches wide.
The collar and the leash, as best you know, and was stated, never broke, or the dog never Annabelle, that is, never came free of those restraints.
Correct.
What was Annabelle's demeanor as you were walking up?
Yeah, so basically as I was getting out of the car, I got the dog out, of course. The nurse was walking ahead of me, and I was walking behind her. And then as I was trying to open the door to my apartment, that's when the neighbor lady opened her door, and her dog came running right out of the threshold, and then that's when the bite happened.
And you were holding on to the leash the entire time that happened?
Yes.
Dog never broke free from your control?
She had a little bit of slack on her leash, so that's really the only reason how it could have only happened.
Okay.
But he did have control of it the whole time. It didn't leave his hand. The leash was just in a J.
What was Annabelle's demeanor as you were trying to open your apartment door to take Annabelle inside?
Her demeanor was to go after the other dog and not the nurse, because this dog always barks at her aggressively. It snaps at her at the window, and it even sometimes even when the lady's taking the dog out, the dog will literally just attack the window even when Annabelle's just looking out the window.
Was Annabelle snarling or growling or anything?
No, she was not.
Was Annabelle barking at all in that hallway?
No, she doesn't usually bark that much.
But you could hear the barking of another dog on the other side of the door?
Yeah, I heard it ever since I shut the door of my car.
Okay. And you had seen this dog before, the one in apartment 7, is that right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, she lives right across from us, so we see that dog quite a bit.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions, council?
I just have one other quick question. So the hallway door, so these are 2 interior hallway doors.
Exterior.
Oh, these are exterior?
Yes, we live in the Sterling Point Apartments.
Okay.
Over in Johnston.
So these are, so when you say they are across the hall, so, I mean, how far from your door to your neighbor's door is it, roughly?
I would say maybe about 6, 7, probably 7 feet. So there's distance, but it's the hallways are all exterior.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, council? If not, then we will ask the city administrator if he has any responses to the appellate's statements regarding the appeal.
I don't have any additional comments that they've made. I don't know if you wanted me to go through my kind of my decision and logic behind that.
So that if the council has questions, they can.
Yeah, so this may take a little while, so if you want to sit down, so we can go through this. So Annabelle is owned by Devin Gibson and Abigail Wiskus, as they stated, and this really initiated out of a bite on August 30th. On September 25th, the Johnston Police Department completed an investigation on this, and Chief McDaniel issued a letter on September 25th. That letter stated in part, and I'll read just this one section from the letter. On August 30th of 2023, the adult victim was in the hallway of your apartment complex knocking on your neighbor's door when Annabella, unprovoked, ran across the hall from your apartment and bit her on the thigh. The victim has serious injuries in the form of significant puncture wounds and muscle/skin tearing to her left thigh, which needed multiple stitches. After reviewing the report and conducting a thorough follow-up investigation, we have determined that your canine's behavior during the described incident was in violation of the city's dangerous dog ordinance 55.10. In response to that letter on September 28th, Abigail Wiskus submitted a letter requesting an appeal to contest the jurisdiction of our animal dog, Annabelle, and to be considered a dangerous dog on September 25th due to the events on August 30th. So that there was a hearing held here at City Hall on October 17th at 3 p.m. Upon the request, and that was reviewed at the hearing. At the hearing, Devin Gibson, Abigail Wiskus, Mike Wiskus, and Aaron Liff Wiskus were present, along with City of Johnston Police Department Community Service Officers Jody Goodwin, Lieutenant Anthony Yeager, and Police Chief Janice McDaniel were also present. All were given an oath, and all individuals provided verbal testimony during the hearing, with the exception of Mike Wiskus. In the testimony, Mr. Gibson stated that he was getting out of his car when his dog Annabella, at the same time as Miss Paige Marie Graham, when they arrived at the property. Mr. Gibson noted that he was greeted by Miss Graham and that she was complimentary to the dog Annabella as they were entering the building. Now, Miss Graham is an in-home nurse and on her way to visit a client at the adjacent property. The testimony provided by the CSO Goodwin and Mr. Gibson noted that while Miss Graham and Mr. Gibson were walking towards the two units, there was a dog barking in Unit 7. Now, testimony by Mr. Gibson, Abigail Wiskus, and Aaron Liff Wiskus noted that the dog in Unit 7 they believed was unfriendly, and certainly they had some history with that dog in the past. Mr. Gibson testified that while he was facing the front door to unlock it, at the same time Miss Graham knocked at Unit 7. During this time, Mr. Gibson was holding the leash for Annabelle, and, quote, there was a little bit of slack. Once the door to Unit 7 opened, Mr. Gibson testified that when Annabelle saw the dog in Unit 7, Annabelle then bit Miss Graham. Mr. Gibson testified that the neighbor's dog was standing, back up. Mr. Gibson testified that, quote, the neighbor's dog was standing right outside the door with no leash, and she, and I'm assuming the resident in Unit 7, was struggling to hold her dog back, unquote. The photographs of Mrs. Graham's injuries from Annabelle's bites in the record show that the bites caused disfiguring lacerations that required over 10 stitches. In reviewing these photos, it appeared to me that the photos showed the wounds after they were cleaned, but prior to stitching. Additionally, they showed the wounds where the flesh was removed, exposing muscle and fatty tissue. And those photos are in the record. The ARL behavior assessment dated January 9th of 2023 noted in recommendations that Annabella had previous issues with other female dogs in the home and was previously beat up by other dogs in the home, so a dog intro was required. The dog, Annabella, was very nice but fearful of weird noises. Additionally, in testimony provided by Mr. Graham, noted that Annabella, quote, is not friendly with other dogs, especially dogs that are smaller than her, unquote. None of the testimony from the appellant or the Johnston Police Department noted that the dog in Unit 7 attacked any individual or dog on August 30th of 2023. None of the testimony or written documentation noted Ms. Graham tormented, assaulted, abused, or otherwise provoked Annabella prior to Annabella's biting Ms. Graham. Now, the age of Annabella in my finding was based on the ARL behavior assessment. That assessment was dated January 18th of 2023 and listed the age of Annabelle as 1 year, 9 months old. That's why I gave an approximate age of Annabelle in my findings of approximately 2.5 years old. I understand there's a discrepancy of the age. However, the age of Annabella would not have changed my determination. Now, the legal standard I based my determination was follows, that the dangerous dog, as defined by City Code Ordinance 55.01, a dangerous dog means any dog that fits into any or all of the following categories. A, without provocation, bites or attacks a person or domestic pet, causing serious injuries, whether on public or private property. B, without provocation, has killed a domestic pet, whether on public or private property. Or C, any dog that, according to the records of a human health department, police department, or humane society, or according to any other records available to the police department, has directly inflicted serious injury on a human being without provocation on public or private property. And then serious injury is defined by the Johnston City Code Ordinance 55.01. Serious injury is any physical injury to a human or domestic animal by a dog that results in bone fracture, muscle tears, disfiguring lacerations, or requires multiple sutures, corrective surgery, cosmetic surgery, or death. So based on my decision, the ultimately was back up. Based on the legal standards, my decision was ultimately formed based on the facts that A, at no time did Miss Graham torment, assault, abuse, or otherwise provoke Annabella prior to Annabella biting Miss Graham. In fact, the testimony provided by Mr. Gibson noted that Miss Graham complimented Annabella, which is not consistent with provoking behavior. And Annabella's bite to Miss Graham resulted in disfiguring lacerations that required over 10 stitches, which were a serious injury because the incident resulted in Miss Graham requiring those stitches. And for those reasons, I upheld the determination of the police chief that Annabella is dangerous since she, without provocation, bit a person, causing those injuries, serious injuries on private property. So with that, I mean, that was my rationale for my basis in determination. I'd be happy to answer any question the council has this evening.
Else have any questions for Mike?
So Mike, so this, looking at the definition of dangerous dog, the concept of provocation seems to be an important kind of fundamental element.
Yeah.
So it seems like there's sort of three principles in this issue. One, you have the dog in Unit 7, I believe, the other dog. You have Mrs. Graham, and you have Annabelle.
Yep.
So as part of your review, did you look at or consider the actions taken by the other dog, and the history of the other dog, and whether that constituted provocation for Annabelle?
I certainly did. And certainly as I took that into light of that, everyone acknowledged that the dog in Unit 7 was barking prior to the incident. Certainly there's a long history of the dog, current and past, barking. There was testimony that even the dog in Unit 7, they would be outside with their dog, and certainly was trying to be aggressive to get out and do action with the other dog. But I think kind of in the broader scope of, knowing the dog was barking and frankly not controlling their dog, I made the determination that, again, also Miss Graham and her actions, at no time did she cause a provocation. I don't think there's any question there.
Right.
That I think when you take the totality of the situation, that while certainly there may be some mitigating factor, I believe that that was not the factor of the attack.
May I say something?
Let's just wait.
Thank you.
So you don't believe that the activity of the dog in the other unit was?
Certainly it was a known, I mean, there was activity and there was aggression occurring there, but it was known. It was open and apparent. Everyone acknowledged it was open and apparent.
Right. I mean, I think the hard part, obviously, the hard part is we're talking about, was a dog provoked, right?
Yeah.
And none of us all we know about what provokes a dog is what we've witnessed, right? We can't put ourselves in the mind of a dog and what provokes, I have dogs, I have little dogs, right? And so I walk these dogs all the time, and there's my dogs are barkers. Anybody who lives in Green Meadows West will attest, my dogs will bark and the bigger the dog, the more they will bark. And what historically will happen is if at some point those dogs come together, it all dissipates. They end up sniffing each other, and so so that happens 99.5% of the time. And then maybe occasionally somebody will snarl, and so something goes wrong. So then obviously everybody does a good job of separating. That's kind of that ownership. That's when kind of, to a certain extent, the action of the dog, who's ever the human who's responsible for the dog has to kind of step in and take account. The hard part for me in this situation is it's a little gray, because clearly the other dog, I believe is in Unit 7. I'm not sure if Unit 1, Unit 7, which one, but the other dog, to me, clearly has some ownership. And also the fact that the owner of that dog, when the door was open, was struggling to control the dog. So I think certainly from an Annabelle standpoint, she felt threatened. And so at that point, she took action. Now, she ends up taking action not by biting the other dog, but by biting a human who clearly did not provoke anything.
Yeah.
But at that point, I'm not sure we can assess, I certainly, maybe a veterinarian or some expert could assess whether a dog has the capacity to determine, is the human the threat or the other dog the threat, and make that type of decision. And I don't know that if you consulted with any experts in trying to figure that out. But anyway, this one is, to me, not a slam dunk one way or the other, just because I do think the action of that other dog played a significant role in the actions that Annabelle took that day. Now, but I also think that it was also the responsibility of the humans to kind of then step in, and I think there's a clear question of whether they adequately did that too. So from my perspective, it's a little bit of certainly not an open and shut case. So
Again, I will just reiterate, I think, where I landed was, who was attacked? And the person that was attacked did not provocate the situation. And, if the standard's going to be, if there's any provocation, a third party doing a provocation, and they attack another individual, that's a, is a car backfiring down the road reason and a potential provocation, and they can then attack someone that's walking next to them. To me, that's where I drew the line. And I get it, that it's a very difficult line of where's the provocation, where's it coming from, is it a factor? But ultimately, that's the way I viewed it, was the individual that was attacked did not cause a provocation. And in fact, I think was very opposite of that, was complimentary to the dog and was actually showing goodwill towards the dog before the attack occurred.
Well, right, but it's very clear when you read the definition of what a dangerous dog is, it doesn't tie the provocation to the person who is bit. There's just, without provocation, bites or attack, it envisions the concept that there could be other factors. And to me, you're right. I mean, if the story or the situation that was brought forward to us tonight was, they heard shooting at Camp Dodge and that caused the dog to get upset, that'd be a lot harder to kind of, I think, find compelling. But I think this is, knowing, and I think obviously, in a fairly closed, confined circumstance like this situation is, that leads a little bit to some challenges. But at the same time, I guess I can kind of see elements of it both ways. So.
Mike, do we know if the dog that was in Unit 7, what the sex of that dog was?
I do not.
Do you know if the police investigated that component at all?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Chief McDaniel.
That's right.
Chief, was that known to you at the time of the investigation?
We identified both of the animals involved in the incident, yes.
Right.
And are they both female dogs, or, I mean, it's a little unclear to me.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Other questions for Mike? Not. I'll ask the appellants to come forward again and offer any final comments that they might have. If you could state your name and address, please.
Thank you. My name is Erin Luft-8 Wiskus. I actually live at 3219 Locust Street Southwest in Bondurant, and I am Abigail's mom. So I have been at Abigail's place several times, and Annabelle has been at my house several times. I just would like to address, maybe the police chief could tell us this. I think it needs to be taken into consideration as well, how many times that the police have been to apartment 7 for this particular animal. Because this animal has, in apartment 7, Lois is her name, not Annabelle, but she has, the police have been there several times. I think Jody, is that her name? Goodwin is the officer, has been at apartment 7 several times, and that dog has bitten people and has been put in quarantine several times. So I think there was a provocation there when Annabelle was there. We do have video of that particular animal clawing and gnarling at the sliding glass, which is opposite across the hall. And we do have video of this dog barking all hours of the day and night. So it's not as if this hasn't probably been brewing, if I can say that legitimately. And I think this was an opportunity. That dog was loose, came out of the apartment. We understand the nurse got bit, and we understand that with the space confinement, that it was a threshold, and there was probably, maybe if she took a step back or something, I think she was just standing in the wrong place at the wrong time when a dog was not leashed. Annabelle was leashed. And then when the dog came out, I think just constantly barking, because you can hear the barking when the home health nurse came to the door, because there was constant barking even when they were approaching the apartment. So the lady across the hall was trying to get Lois under control so she didn't get out in the hallway, because I think that slider stays open, so the lady at the apartment knows when the home health nurse is coming, so she can see her where she parks in front of, because this is all ground level apartment, so she can see when the home health nurse comes, and then she can get to the door. Therefore, the dog knows when the home health nurse is coming as well. So, and there are 2 dogs in that apartment, I believe, am I correct? And not just one. So the dog that came out as a healer, it's a little bit bigger dog, so probably about the same size as Annabelle. So I think there's been some tension there, and I think this just was an absolutely accident, if I can say that. And it was, and the home health nurse, I think, was at the wrong place at the wrong time. And it is clearly not her fault at all. I think she was just a casualty of what had happened. So that's what I have to say. But I think it needs to be taken in consideration how many times this other animal has been put in quarantine and bitten other people and so on and so forth. So I think that I don't have it on video, but I personally witnessed, they have thorn. Annabelle's big enough, well, the ledge is low enough, Annabelle can go and just put her head out and look out the window and watch people. She doesn't bark, she doesn't do anything. She'll lay in front of the slider and just, lay there and watch people. And there are times where, and I have been there and seen it, and so has my husband, where that dog gets out and it'll come over to the slider and just start scratching and clawing at Annabelle. And Annabelle just lays there like, what are you gonna do? There's glass between us, sort of attitude. So, and I have also seen that dog, when the lady takes it out, She will take it out and kind of walk to her left, which they're on the left side and they're on the right side, or north-south. And that dog will jump over a barberry bush to get to the window where Annabelle's just sitting there with her little chin on the thing. And that dog will leap over those bushes to try to get to her. So and that was prior to this incident happening. So I think there's some history there between the two animals. And we're certainly not, dismissing the problem that the nurse has. I did look at the wound. I am in the medical field. I did look at the pictures of the wound. They are probably about the size of a quarter, give or take, if you can look, because you can see her fingernail right where the wound is at. So that gives you a size to, I think everybody's envisioning this big gigantic tear. It is not. It is probably the size of a quarter, 50-cent piece would be my estimation of it. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration. Yes, it happened. It should not have happened. And we're certainly not, negating the fact that she did get bit, but I think it was just the perfect storm. And she just so happened to be standing right there. I don't think it was Annabelle intentionally to bite her. I just think she was in the way and got bitten. That's all that I have to say. So thank you very much. Sorry, I'm not dressed appropriately for a council meeting. Was not expecting
You are
to-
dressed just fine.
Wasn't expecting to say anything. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mike Wiskus, 3219 Locust Street Southwest, Bondurant. I am Abigail's father. What I like to say about Annabelle is she's an 80-pound lap dog. She just loves everybody unconditionally. I've got pictures that Abby has sent me where Annabelle is laying on her patio, just watching everybody going by, just as chill as can be. So I agree that the home health nurse did not provocate Annabelle, but I believe Lois, the healer, provocated Annabelle, and it's been a long history of that dog coming after Annabelle. So, but like I said, she's a 80-pound lap dog.
Thank you.
Mayor, is there any opportunity to ask further questions of the appellant?
Sure.
Could I, Mr. Gibson, are you willing to come back up so I can ask you just a couple more questions? Thank you. Prior to this incident, had you ever seen the dog that came to the door of Unit 7 prior to the day of this bite?
Oh yeah, I mean I've seen the dog taken out of the apartment going to the bathroom or whatever, but every single time I've seen the dog, it's always been negative experiences. It's always barking, growling, lashing its teeth. It doesn't matter if it's me and Annabelle, or it's just me. So
were you at all familiar with the sex of the dog, Lois, prior to that?
Prior? No, not at all.
You wouldn't have known if it was a male or a female?
No, I would have had no idea.
Okay. Had you ever observed that home health nurse, that either that specific home health nurse or some other home health nurse visiting that location prior to that day?
Can you repeat that real quick?
Had you ever observed that specific home health nurse visiting Unit 7 prior to that day?
I've never seen the lady there. I've never seen like the lady herself. I've seen her car there multiple times, but I've never, that was the first time I've ever seen the lady.
Were you familiar, was that the first time that you had ever walked Annabelle on the day of that bite?
Oh, I've taken her out multiple times. I mean, from going on car rides to going on a walk. I mean, it's not the first time she's seen someone in the hallway, but I mean, it's the first time she's seen someone in the hallway that has a dog on the other side.
Has Annabelle ever escaped or tried to escape under your control on a leash?
No, I mean, on a leash?
Yes.
No.
And were you familiar with the January 9th statements given by the ARL about Annabelle's demeanor with regard to other female dogs, I think, quote, beating her up?
Yes, yes.
So you were familiar with that?
Yep, I was aware of that.
Do you also agree with the statement that this was brewing? In other words, that this was bound to happen at some point in time?
I definitely feel like it definitely was because anytime like both of the dogs have seen each other outside, Annabelle's not as bad as her as the other dog is, but they don't like each other. They're very aggressive towards each other.
Did you know that the woman who complimented your dog when she first got out of the car, or when you first got out of the car and was walking in front of you, was going to Unit 7?
I didn't know that off the top of my head. I assumed that she was going like further down the hall because where we park at, the first two doors is my door and then our neighbor's door. I just assumed that this lady was walking down further. I didn't really know that she was a home health nurse to the door next to me.
When she stopped at that Unit 7 and knocked or rang a doorbell, something along those lines.
That's when I was literally just about to twist a knob, and then that's when it all happened. So really, my goal was to hurry up and get inside real quick.
For what reason?
I knew the lady had a dog on the other side. I had a tight grip on Annabelle, but she's also an 80-pound dog, so she is strong.
All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
And I don't know if this is for you or both of you and Abigail.
Okay.
If the decision that Annabelle is judged a dangerous dog, what are you required to do to continue to have her in your apartment? What are the things that would be required for you to keep Annabelle?
She's the one that has the paper, so I'll let her answer that.
I guess to kind of start with, we have to have a $100,000 policy on her, which we have here.
You did purchase one?
Correct, and it's in here.
Okay.
Muzzled when she is outside of our care, which we already do. It's a Baskerville muzzle, so it's one of the higher quality ones. It's not just like a Velcro one that slips over. It's a high quality muzzle.
And you'd have to have her with the muzzle forever?
Any time that we leave our unit and that we are in the city of Johnston.
Oh, okay. And there's no time period like a reassessment or anything? It's from now on?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. And then anything else?
And a dangerous dog sign on the door by any entrances. So that would mean both our sliding back glass door and our front door as well.
Will you have any additional fees by the apartment complex will you be allowed to stay with a dangerous dog, a judged dangerous dog? Because some of them might say there's a problem.
Yes, but she is also my registered emotional support animal, so it kind of gets hairy for apartments when it comes to that. So, and I also have her papers for that as well.
So you won't have to move out of your apartment, and you've already pretty much, you feel, taken care of the issues that what might be required if Annabelle is judged a dangerous dog. So the biggest concern you have, or the biggest hardship, what is it if Annabelle is continued under the tagline of dangerous dog? I'm trying to get to the objection, because it looks like you've gone ahead and taken care of what would be required.
Correct. It would just kind of to have those signs on our doors, just kind of, it's not welcoming. And we do have children in our apartment complex who have met Annabelle several times, and they now see her with a muzzle, and I tell them, no, you can't pet her anymore. I'm sorry. And
I see.
so it's just kind of, It's just not welcoming. And the letters have to be 2.5 inches tall on the signs. So they're quite in your face.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, council?
I don't have a question for the appellant. I have a question for Chief McDaniel when that's appropriate.
You can sit down. Thank you. Chief?
Yes, sir.
So Chief, a question was raised about the other dog, I think her name is Lois, the dog's history. Are you able to provide any?
I can give you general context. That's not a part of this file, and I don't have that information with me this evening. We did evaluate that as far as prior calls for service. When we have these kinds of investigations, it's not uncommon to have two parties of animals involved in this, so we take a deep dive into the history of all animals involved, ownership, those kinds of things, but I just don't have those numbers. I can tell you off the top of my head. I know we've been there for barking dog calls. We had one instance where there was a reported bite that happened after the fact that ended up being a nip to a woman's hip on a stairwell. She did not report it at the time. She went, finished her workday, got home, and then noticed that there was scrapes on her hip. We did an investigation into that as part of the standard procedure in which we do that. Anytime we do a bite where there's a break of the skin, we order the quarantine aspect of that. In the course of our investigation, it was not declared to be a potentially dangerous or dangerous dog. It did not meet the code definition of either of those statutes. So we have what we call a stern warning letter that we send in the course of that. So as far as a reported bite involving Lois, the other dog, that would be the only instance in which the police department's investigated.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Chief, before you wander away, do you know by chance what the owner's response is for a potentially dangerous animal and how that differs from a dangerous dog?
Talking about the code requirements, it's very close to the same. There's a few minor differences. The section code is 5512. I'd have to skim it here real quickly. One of the differences, there was a question about being able to re-examine the declaration. That's a portion of the potentially dangerous versus the dangerous as far as that goes. Essentially, what the police department does when we make either of these declarations, we create kind of a booking sheet for a dog, is how you could picture it, where we keep the profile, the photographs, all the information correlated with it. There's still the insurance requirement. I believe there's the muzzling, but I'd have to read into that. We look along the behavior consultation side of things, usually with potentially dangerous, whereas there's the training mandate with the dangerous. So it's scalable in any of those realms, but essentially we're trying to accomplish the same thing. The insurance component is a piece of both of those. Ultimately, my job in all of this, as far as trying to steer the ultimate decision on these investigations, is I have to weigh the interests of the community at hand. And obviously in this case, there's an apartment complex and there's a lot of frequent visitors. So that plays into the final decision and determination with that as well, as far as the environmental factors and concerns associated with it.
Thanks, Chief.
Christine, I would just ask you, in terms of the distinction between dangerous dog and potentially dangerous dog, it appears to me that the difference is the severity of the injury.
Correct. Under both definitions, it's without provocation. So that if that is the issue, that would not change between a dangerous dog and a potentially dangerous dog. It would be the severity of the injury that would merit the lower classification. Correct.
One last question for Mike, because I know it included in the materials was this Dunbar scale that measures the severity of the bite, and so there was some references, but I haven't seen any pictures or anything of the bite. Can you tell us a lot based on this scale where the injuries to Mrs. Gibson fell?
So this was a matrix that was provided by the police department, so I'd let Chief McDaniel.
Sure, sorry about that, Chief, sorry.
And there are injury photos in the council packet.
There are what?
There are photos of the injury in the council
Oh, I
packet.
didn't see that. Okay.
Page 7.
Yeah, it's in the police report.
The CA decision?
No, JPD case 23 dash, and then go to page 7. If you'd like to see those injuries.
Your question.
Just, so the Dunbar scale that was included, so what was the determination to what level the injuries that the Mrs. Gibson suffered?
So where that comes into factor is in my final determination. So as we do the investigation with the community service officer, it goes to a division commander, then it comes to me for final determination. So that is a tool that I utilize that was provided to me from the Animal Rescue League a few years ago when we started having more and more bites to try to give some sort of scalable value to not only the situation at hand, but the propensity for it to possibly reoccur based upon the investigation. So that is one of the tools that I use in this particular incident. The circumstances as we investigated determined some factors were a level 3, some factors were a level 4 on that scale. So that again is just one of those decision-making tools that I utilize prior to making final judgment as to whether there should be a declaration or not.
Great, thank you.
Christine, maybe if I could ask you just to remind us, because we've kind of been all over the board here in this discussion, could you just remind, I was asking Christine.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you.
Could you just remind us what are the questions that we need to answer to come to a conclusion tonight, a decision?
Sure. So the decision before the council tonight is an appeal of the city administrator's upholding of the police department's declaration that Annabelle is a dangerous dog based on the bite that occurred. So tonight, your decision is either to uphold that decision, and you would therefore affirm his determination that it was an unprovoked bite that caused serious injury. The alternative would be to reverse the decision that you find that Annabelle is not a dangerous dog. It did not meet the definition of a dangerous dog. You could also modify the decision if you felt that it was a potentially dangerous dog, but again, that would still require a finding of without provocation. Those are sort of your 3 options this evening. And when you do make your decision, there should be some articulation of, yes, we believe that the facts as presented were accurate and we agree with the finding of the city administrator. Or if you disagree with that finding, you should explain why, because we are required to provide a written decision to the dog owner.
So if there aren't any other questions, this would be the time then to make a decision regarding the appeal. And as Christina said, that the decision on the appeal should include the basis for that decision.
Mayor, would it be appropriate for each of us to speak to this, or are we going to have a vote?
I think that each of you need to speak to it.
That's what I would think too. I'm happy to go first if you want. These are always really tough. What provocation is not very well defined. And I totally understand, Abigail, that you don't want the kids in the neighborhood or in the complex to be scared of Annabelle. She sounds like a nice dog in the right situation, but then in the wrong situation, that she's a danger. So being an elected official, I have to come down on the safety of the people of Johnston, and I'm sorry to say it, but I would uphold the ruling.
I agree with Councilmember Martin, and I'd like to meet Annabelle sometime. But I also believe that based on the interpretation of fact, not only by our police department, but also by our city administrator, that the victim in this case did not provoke that animal. That was the interpretation given of provocation. And I agree that victim did not provoke this attack. And I am, if anything, grateful that that victim is able to heal from this type of attack and that it wasn't more serious. But with that being said, I appreciate the fact that even before a final designation, you've taken your ownership responsibilities very seriously. You now know what this dog is capable of doing. As much as and as many times over this dog has not demonstrated that to you or to others, there is still that risk. Clearly, it was a risk to Ms. Graham at that point in time. So I would uphold this decision as well.
Yeah, I will support to uphold the decision as well. As I've indicated, I think it's a close call, but I do think that unfortunately, and I think it was just a real kind of quick kind of thing. To me, I'm sure Mr. Gibson, you'd love to have that all over again, where you could have said, "Hey, look, before you open that door, let me get myself and my dog into the room," and then this whole thing could have been avoided. And the hard part is that so it's sort of that the fact that you weren't able to do that was kind of triggered an unfortunate sort of series of events. But whenever a dog bites somebody, another dog or another person, that's clearly some sort of indication that some additional protection is necessary. And so I think in this case, it is necessary. But I sympathize for you, and I think as others have acknowledged, I really appreciate you stepping forward and taking the responsible actions, because I think that's, you stepped forward initially when you went to the ARL and said, we'll take in a dog that somebody had not taken in. We need more people to do that, right? And so you've demonstrated in so many ways responsible behavior. And so it's sort of unfortunate that one quick moment, you're kind of have to deal with it. But I do appreciate the fact that you've been very responsible in handling it so far, and hope you continue to do that.
Councilman Reddy.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here, and I know pets are pets, and we all love pets. I have a dog at home, and we really take care of it well. My dog is kind of old now, but we have to carry him around. He has arthritis, so we have to carry him around. But we still love our dog. But our dog never has barked or bitten or anything like that. So it's other part of that. I'm also a person of facts and numbers, and what I see is what I like to know more about it. As long as the facts are presented as is, that's when I know that this is what it is. So I just always try to put the emotional part away and just try to look at the facts and work on those things. So as far as the facts and everything else been presented, this dog has bit in us unprovoked. And as Mr. Councilman Kopp was saying, that if this could have been avoided if we had taken the dog inside, and this would have all been avoided. But unfortunately, it has happened. So I certainly think the dog has been unprovoked, bitten, and everything else. So that's why I think I'll support this, the decision the administrator has made on this. I'm really sympathize with you. I'm really apologize for saying this, but these are facts here. Thank you.
I'm just going to go with everything that everybody else has already said. There's really nothing more to add. It's unfortunate, but like Suresh said, with the facts, we kind of have to uphold it.
And maybe if I could just add a little bit more. First of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for, adopting an ARL dog, as Councilman Cope said. We want to encourage people to do that. We want more people to do that, so thank you for doing that. And I'm glad to hear that Annabelle is a good pet for you. I mean, you obviously care a lot about her, care a lot for her, and you're good. You're good pet owners. You're taking good care of her now, and you're taking responsibility for some behavior that she has shown, and making sure that you're doing what you can do to make sure that never happens again. What I worry about is that perfect storm happening again. This time the injury was serious. Next time it could be even much more serious. It can involve a child. I worry about that. And so, given that she has shown that behavioral tendency, whatever might provoke her, just need to, take that extra precaution and make sure that someone else isn't harmed in the future. So thank you for doing what you are doing now. And I know the label of dangerous dog doesn't feel good, but this is the law that we have. This is the ordinance that we have to apply. So again, appreciate you coming forward tonight. Appreciate you presenting your information to us and giving us an opportunity to have some conversation about it up here and making a decision. So appreciate it. So, Counselor, what do I need to do next?
So I think at this point, Your Honor, you can declare the appeal as being fully submitted. And then I can say the motion that I think needs to be made.
Okay. Well, parroting what you just said, the appeal has been fully submitted, the decision has been made.
Okay. And so I think council members should make a motion to uphold the decision of the city administrator that Annabelle is a dangerous dog as defined by Johnston Code of Ordinances 5501, in that without provocation, she bit or attacked a person, causing serious injury on private property.
I will make the motion that Christine has just outlined.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Sam, vote please.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Oh, and I should have included this in the motion, I apologize. We will put your decision in writing, so I just need a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the written order once it's completed, as we do have to get that out within 5 days.
I make a motion that the mayor sign the decision.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Sam, vote please.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Motion passed. I think that concludes our work on that one. We'll move back to the agenda again. That takes us to the city administrator staff comments. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We just have 2 staff updates. I'll start first with Matt, please.
It's on there.
No, I want to here tonight to give at the last council meeting, I was requested to provide an update on MetroNet and where they are currently at in their installation process. So they provided these slides for us and a map of exactly where they're located here in Johnston. What you see in green is where they have completed installation of their fiber network, minus, I believe, the lower left-hand corner, which is along 100th Street, the Adam Ridge, and the Glenstone town or Glenstone neighborhood is completed. Looking at Mike, he lives in that neighborhood.
I've seen the maps and I'm like, wait a minute, I have MetroNet and I'm in Johnston.
So that is completed. The other areas, there's 3 other areas listed there. It's in yellow, and they do not have, or there is not completed on fiber in those areas. The main area you can see is along Beaver Drive from 66th all the way up to the North City limits. It does say that those are too high a cost per pass to install. The other area, JN012, is the area that's just north of, a little bit south of 70th, which is 93rd, 95th, and 98th Street, and then north of 70th, which is the Northwood neighborhood, and some other, and Royal Park Estates. So north of 70th,
Johnston Commons too, right?
yeah, that is. So that area, Johnston Commons, right here, north of the library, as well as Ritger Oaks, is a couple of the areas that was indicated to be in J09 that service was at too high of a cost per pass. I can take that feedback. I would think that there would be enough density there in order to serve. They also have part of their backbone running up and down Merle Hay Road already, so you would think they could get into the neighborhood. I will take that feedback.
I would like to say that, yeah, I think you should push that because it's just as dense as North Glen.
I will take that feedback back to the MetroNet representative. What you can see on this slide, they have completed 500 or 5,008 passes, which is passing a home. So they do have fiber in front of over 5,000 homes here in Johnston.
So Matt,
Yes.
on that, what does that too high cost per pass mean? Does that mean they're not going to build it?
That is currently what they're stating, that it is a lower return on their investment. So they have a larger investment than what they would gain on return.
My house too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, what did you say, Suresh?
My house too. I don't get internet.
Oh.
And you can see, I mean, those are probably where we've got some lower density homes along Beaver Drive, and it's a substantial fiber backbone to run up Beaver Drive. But I can take that back to council and back to
I mean,
MetroNet and let them know.
There's a lot of people waiting for that fiber network. They've been requesting me, what am I doing with this? I'm only kidding.
We've also received calls at Public Works about fiber going up Beaver Drive as well, wondering when that would happen.
Exactly. So there's a lot of people, so I think we need that.
So moving on to the next slide, these are some of the expansions that they do have going. That's in some residential areas, private streets where they have HOAs and multiple dwelling units. They have canceled a couple of projects for too high of a cost, but a lot of the other ones seem to be pending construction or pending an agreement or already completed. Some of those are in the Adam Ridge Townhomes, Century Trace Townhomes, and then they're actively working on North Park Apartments and Village at Johnston Station. They are continuing as they get those agreements with some of the HOAs and multi-dwelling units to continue installation. And on the final slide, their responsiveness that they've reported is 99% within 24 hours. So if they get a ticket or a phone call, they do get in contact within 24 hours to the resident. You can see some of the ticket types there for hit cable lines, customer damage for their yards. Looks like they got two electric lines and some for restoration, but they've since fixed all of those issues. And then it looks like they've made a completion of those tickets, about a 98% rate within 7 days. So just a quick update, that information is in the council packet as well, if you want to take a closer look at it. Happy to take any questions.
Matt, I think I kind of followed up or piggybacked on this initial request of where's MetroNet with regard to a larger kind of survey of where all of those who provide broadband within our market are or planning to be. Have you had a chance to reach out to those other vendors and did you get any kind of response? I appreciate this data. It's disheartening. I mean, but I'm not trying to fault the messenger by any means in that regard. But has there been anything?
Haven't had a chance to follow up with MediaCom or Lumen.
Okay.
And to find that information out, I will follow up with them and bring that back to council.
Thanks very much.
Any other questions for Matt? Thank you, Matt.
Also get an update from Chief McDaniel.
Okay.
This was going to be kind of a preemptive awareness just for the next council meeting because we didn't typically do what we did tonight with a certain work session. So I'm I'm going to do hopefully the same thing that we experienced this go around. We're going to bring the canine in about 6:30 of our next council meeting. Officer Peter Meyer is going to do a brief, probably 10-minute presentation with an overview of the dog and the training and the abilities of the animal. We're then going to do a quasi swearing in, and that'll be interesting. We're still.
Raise your right paw.
Yeah, right. We're still working through that. No tricks will happen. We're also going to have our sponsors for the program present, and then what we're going to try to do is break that last 15 minutes to just have kind of an informal social, to give you a chance to look at the canine vehicle, talk with the handler, and mingle with some of the sponsors. So it's really actually very similar to what we did this evening is kind of the intention for the next work session.
Anything else, Mike?
Nothing else this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Council comments? Councilman Evans?
Nothing, thanks.
Councilman Reddy? Councilman Cope?
I'll pass.
A couple of things real quickly. First, I hope we get a chance to invite them to a council meeting, Mayor, if you're willing. But the Johnston High School girls cross country team finished out their season in fantastic and speedy fashion and brought home the state championship. All of our fall sports have done exceedingly well, and I'm proud of all of them in that capacity. I wish everyone luck who's on a ballot tomorrow. I encourage all in our community to go out and vote if they haven't already done so. I also do want to draw special attention. There is the referendum for consideration to allow borrowing under the debt limit, or at least the bond rating of the county with regard to the airport expansion that's being proposed. So I encourage everyone to get to the polls and weigh in accordingly. I certainly will be doing that, and I hope you all are informed as you do that. And lastly, something that's weighing on me, I just hope that overall that we can do our own little part here in Johnston to try to bring peace to a very troubled world. And I ask that all of you continue to keep those who are afflicted by all sorts of different issues, whether they be man-made or natural disasters, and hold them in your thoughts. So thanks.
I just want to offer the candidates here good luck too. Hoping the Isaac candidates, all candidates. That's all I wanted to say. Good luck. I'm sure it's a tough fight, but I think that you'll do good. Really.
Oh, thank you, Councilman Martin. I do want to just share, I've been out doing some door knocking throughout Johnston the last month or so. And I do want to share that I have, with only one exception, I have gotten just incredibly positive feedback. They just think, we are just doing an amazing job. So I want to share that with all of you. Keep up the good work. Our community thinks we're doing everything that we should be doing and more. So they couldn't be more happy about living in Johnston, couldn't be more happy about the services that they're receiving. So just want to share that. I did share a little earlier that one of the individuals that I was chatting with this afternoon told me that she had already voted for me on the ballot. And I said, well, I don't have an opponent. And she said, well, did he drop out? I said, what do you mean? There was never an opponent. She said, well, I voted absentee and there was somebody on the ballot, like Jerry or somebody. So anyway, I think we've confirmed that there was never any other name on the ballot. But if you hear tomorrow that
there was none on my ballot.
Okay, good.
I can confirm that.
For about a half a minute this afternoon, I was a little concerned. But anyway, good luck to everyone. I think the outcome will be good, positive for all of us. And I think that just demonstrates just what a good job our community thinks we're doing. So thanks to all of you. Appreciate it. And a special thanks to our fire department and our police department. They made a little visit to my house last week.
Oh.
Burning leaves? Naughty.
No. My husband had a little health incident, and they were there in less than 2 minutes, and they got him in the bus and took him downtown, so, but he's doing well now. So they did a fantastic job. Anyway, anything else to come before the group this evening? If not, we are adjourned.